let's go ahead and jump into our hot topic and kind of the main reason why we brought Miss Sonora on today. Last week, she approached us with this wonderful idea to put out a PSA to our fellow brothers and sisters and allies to take action beyond protest.
I'm Shantae.
I'm Sonora.
And I'm Jasmine.
In the last 30 days, we have been in pain watching our brothers and sisters lose their life to police brutality.
Ahmaud Arbery was shot while exercising.
Breonna Taylor was shot multiple times in her own bed.
And George Floyd's life was stolen from us by excessive force.
We have decided enough is enough.
We are sad, broken, and angry at a world who would rather kneel on our necks than stand up for our lives. That being said, protesting and making the problem apparent is only the first step.
So what do we do when the protests are done? And when news coverage inevitably no longer sees us as worthy coverage, and Black lives are no longer a trend?
You can vote. You can keep educating yourself, and you can demand change from your policy makers. Don't know what change to ask for? Well, we've got you covered.
Here are 22 ideas for policy changes that you can demand from your representatives.
Psychological bias testing for incoming and current officers with continued testing every 10 years.
Pre-hire social media vetting of police officers to monitor explicit bias.
Police training on procedural, institutional, explicit, and implicit biases.
Police training on community and relationship-based policing techniques.
Mandatory counseling for police officers once a week.
Required police license with civilian review boards.
Demilitarized police attire. Police don't need to look like SWAT team members doing day-to-day duties.
Body cameras. Make them mandatory to wear, and mandatory that they're turned on at the start of every single encounter.
Car cameras. Dash cams on all four sides of the vehicle that record the entire time the officer is on duty.
Mandatory use of de-escalation and non-violent techniques prior to the violent methods.
Officers should be required to give notice before using lethal force and require officers to call out and stop other officers from using excessive force.
Put mediation teams on the street comprised of reformed criminals.
Change our police to peace officers.
Demilitarize the fucking police.
Teams of independent prosecutors with jurisdiction dedicated to prosecuting wrongful and biased interactions with police officers.
A new president with a rhetoric of love instead of hate.
Explicitly ban racist policing.
Set a national standard and create a definition of what constitutes excessive force. You can't solve a problem that isn't defined.
Evaluate policymakers, judges, and all elected officials' biases and make it public during the election process. This will help to prevent biased policies.
Require that all policies be evaluated for potential racial disparities and impacts that they could have on communities of color.
Require that officers must notify people of their right to refuse a search if there isn't a warrant.
Require officers to obtain consent on camera or through writing before conducting non-warranted searches.
Mandatory collection of transparent, public, and searchable data online composed of stop and frisk, summons, use of force, arrests, and killings, including all relevant information, including race, gender, time, place, etc. That's what we have so far.
Do you have any ideas?
Let us know down below.
Let's have a conversation. Exist,
resist,
and put up your fist.
Black Lives Matter.
Once Black Lives Matter isn't trending anymore and we're not front page news and all this stuff, what else can you do to continue the fight for change? So she came up with this idea. It was 22 ideas for policy reform. You want to talk a little bit about that, Sonora?
Sure, yeah. Basically, I asked Jasmine and Shantae to help me read off this list of 22 policy reforms for police officers that would help to end or to change police brutality and to hold police officers and our government in general accountable.
And is this list something that people, if they wanted to, could send to their representatives as just kind of like ideas as well?
Yes. So any of these are just a starting point. It's not a complete list. It's not a final list, but you can find it up on Facebook, Instagram. And eventually we will be posting a solid list that you can just copy and paste and post and send to your representatives. You can also find a link at that video to find your representatives if you don't actually know who they are.
How many views does that have now?
It has about 86,000 views.
Do you guys hear that? Not 86, 86,000. So obviously there are people out here who are behind the ideas that Sonora has put together. You know, we're not just blowing smoke.
They're definitely not radical ideas either.
This whole thing is it's not a political issue. This is a human rights issue.
Right.
And so it shouldn't be across party lines that you have an issue with it. Like none of the ideas said to abolish the police.
None of them. Or even to defund.
No, we just want to demilitarize them.
Yes.
I wanted to take a step back and just kind of say, so like, I feel like this time is different.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask collectively, how does it feel to you compared to other instances of police brutality? Like, how does this time feel different to you?
Sonora, I want you to go first.
Sure. I mean, in some ways, it doesn't feel different. Like, this has happened across history to Black people since we got brought over on boats over here. And so this isn't something that's new. What's new is that white people seem to care after watching this video for almost 9 minutes of a white police officer deliberately and premeditatedly kneeling on this Black man's neck for having a counterfeit $20 bill. And so,
like, I didn't even know that was a crime that you'd call the police for.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and to know that he didn't even know that it was counterfeit.
Yeah. He's not out here just making them in mass. And I want to, for my response to that, I kind of want to piggyback on that with you, Sonora, because I even asked Shantae last night. I was like, is it corny to you that all of a sudden everybody is screaming Black Lives Matter? And, you know, and she said, you know, yes and no, because I'm going to take the support and I'm going to take, you know, what I can get. And absolutely, you know, and it's just a matter of maybe, and from the people that I've spoken to, it's not that they never agreed or understood it. It's just a matter of, I don't know how to speak on it without either making it about me, because a lot of people, non-Black people, don't know how to speak on it without making it about themselves. And also don't know how, and also don't want to say the wrong thing, because in this day and age, you can be crucified for anything. So I feel like people are now like, okay, I see that this is an issue and I'm going to speak on it regardless, because I understand that I do have this privilege, and people are breaking it down, I see, in different ways. And that is also, I feel like, helping. I've had 2 or 3 different people now tell me like, oh yeah, I saw this one video break it down and it clicked for me all of a sudden. And now I'm kind of like, wow, all I need to do is use my voice and privilege. And that alone makes a huge difference.
I definitely agree with you, Sonora. It's definitely been going on for years, and I am happy that everyone is finally awake. And like I said, I just want to take whatever we can get. But what I want more than anything is the action behind it. I don't really care about your nice words.
Yeah.
And, you know, you finally seeing that Black lives do matter. What I want is it to change, like, more than anything. I don't want to sound like mean or brash, but it's just kind of like, that's all we need.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I think that the important thing to recognize too, is that by having this white allyship all of a sudden spring up, you know, we are seeing change. Cory Booker and Kamala Harris brought a bill to the House of Representatives, you know, from Black Caucus, having police reforms. You have Houston that is now starting to defund the police, which also defunding the police doesn't mean taking away all their money. Defunding the police means setting rules. If you don't get your police brutality down, if you don't set data, if you don't stop purchasing AK-57s, like if you don't stop doing those, we will withhold funding. That's what the police means.
So
Seriously?
So Sonora, I want to ask for people who allies, say who don't know where to start, or say they want to know what steps they can take to get more involved. What advice would you give them, or what would you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, for really like effective allyship, first of all, don't tell other people that you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
It's literally everywhere now.
It's everywhere, and you need to take the initiative to
Initiative.
Yes, exactly. You need to
Google.
Yeah, you have the internet at your fingertips. Google what anti-racism is. Don't not be a racist. Be actively anti-racist. Know what the difference between systematic and institutionalized racism is. Know what implicit and explicit bias is. Know what fragility is. Like, to be an effective ally, you have to know these terms so that you can begin to fix them and actually stand by your Black brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. Let's see. Do you know anything about, we can talk about like organizations that people can join too, because I don't even think that a lot of these groups, you have to be a Black person to join. Anybody can.
Mm-hmm.
So again, color is not necessarily an issue when it comes to supporting the cause. Black Lives Matter is in pretty much every city across the nation. And there's a lot of other, smaller organizations that are claiming themselves to be Black Lives Matter. Just make sure that you do your research if you're going to support the one in your city and county.
In Seattle, it is the Black Lives Matter King County chapter. So just so that you know, it's not Black Lives Matter Seattle, it's King County.
The NAACP, one of the oldest existing organizations.
I've been seeing a lot of ads from them. They are looking for members, especially here in Seattle. So definitely check them out.
Urban League and United Way. United Way always has volunteer opportunities.
And during this time with the pandemic, I'm sure that they really are looking for anybody who is able-bodied and willing to help right now. The Urban League, ours here in Seattle is called Seattle Urban League. I actually joined as a member. And so I'm hoping that once I start getting more communication from them, that I can somehow, maybe get on a board or just start attending their meetings and just learning more about what I can do to help myself.
Yeah, I think the important thing to realize when you're talking about organizations and anything like that, a lot of people are like, oh, well, I don't know what I can contribute. Every single person has strengths. And so use that. Think about what your strengths are. Like Shantae has marketing and advertising on her side. Organizations need that. Jasmine can speak and she's good with people. Organizations can use that. I'm going to law school so that I can use that. Everybody has
exactly.
They can add into this.
Yeah.
If you can write, if you like public speaking, fundraising, you know how to put events together. Like there's something for everybody. And if there's not, you can check the other box and say, I don't know what I can do, but I would love for you to find a place for me.
I'm here to help. I'm here to offer my services.
Yeah. And if you don't have time, donate money. If you don't have money, vote. That's it.
Sign a petition,
There's so many petitions that you can be signing right now.